What's up, guys? Welcome to the Masters Fantasy Show, brought to you by MastersFantasyFootballLeagues.com. My name is Jonathan, the commissioner here at Masters Fantasy Leagues. 15 years in business, over 700 Dynasty Leagues. We've never folded a single one. Definitely come check us out. Not what I'm here to talk about today, though. Week 6 is in the books. Going to be taking a look at the Week 7 Dynasty Waiver Wire. Definitely a few interesting prospects I think you should consider picking up. Let's jump right into it. First two guys I'm going to be talking about. I think this mostly applies to super flex leagues. Not quite on my radar yet in a regular dynasty league. The Carson Wentz injury looks like he's going to miss approximately 4 weeks, maybe longer. Let's be honest, man, the experiment hasn't really been working out that well anyway. Starter from last year, Tyler Heineke, is going to get the first crack at the job. I definitely think with bye weeks coming up, definitely a guy worth picking up and rostering in super flex leagues. I think the more interesting prospect here, though, is going to be the rookie sitting behind him currently, which is going to be Sam Howell out of North Carolina, the guy that flashed in the preseason, showed that he can do a little bit with his legs and his arms. And I actually think, man, this Washington Commanders offense, even though it hasn't looked great, hasn't produced a ton of fantasy points, a lot of potential there, man. This isn't the Commanders team from last year. I think obviously a healthy Curtis Samuel, the drafting of Jahan Dotson, he's looked really good this year. Obviously, Terry McLaurin was there as the one. Brian Robinson at the running back. I just think overall a much better Washington Commanders offense. And in Superflex leagues, man, this Commanders team is looking for a spark. If Tyler Heineke doesn't get it done, I don't think it'll be long before they turn the reins over to Howell and see what he can do. Might be just the medicine they need to get this offense going, get a spark in Washington. So if he's on your waiver wire, I feel pretty confident that I'd put a pretty big bid in on Sam Howell, get him on your team. Find a roster spot for him, sit back the next couple weeks and see what happens. A good chance, man, that Carson Wentz is done. We may have seen the last we're ever going to see a Carson Wentz. The Commanders don't win. If they don't win, there's really no sense of bringing them back. Pretty good chance we've seen the end of the Carson Wentz experiment. This guy's just been traded on from team to team. It's just not working out. The Commanders haven't looked great. He hasn't looked great. He's making, mistakes out there, mistakes in the red zone. Just wouldn't be surprised at all if we've seen the end of Carson Wentz. And maybe even on a super flex team, both these guys may be available on your waiver wire. I mean, I'd take a flyer on both. I'd try to pick them both up, put them on my roster, stash them, and see what happens over the next couple weeks. Just may find, a starting quarterback for your super flex team for some blind bidding dollars, which is always nice. Second guy I want to talk about, actually a guy that's been on my radar, since before the season started, a guy that was climbing up rookie drafts. That's going to be Greg Dulcich in Denver's tight end. A guy that, like I said, early in the season, the Albert O hype started. He looked like he was going to be the starter in Denver. Guys, I seen him going, 7th, 8th round in startup dynasty leagues. But if you paid attention, man, to the Denver beat writers, to everything he was hearing about coming out of training camp in Denver, Dulcich slowly but surely, man, was getting more reps, was running with the first team. I even seen beat writers start to say that they thought that Greg Dulcich was going to be the starter in Denver. Obviously, the hamstring injury gets moved to injured reserve. Kind of an afterthought. I look, man, he's not on very many rosters at all. I do have him on a couple of my rosters. I've been waiting for this moment, for quite a few weeks. Finally, he gets to start his first game. And I'll be honest, I thought about doing this last week, like, a guy to pick up prior, to the Monday night game, but I really wasn't sure how much he was going to be involved. Man, right out the gate, 3 targets, 2 catches. It was 44 yards, his first NFL touchdown. This Denver offense has been terrible. Definitely a team looking for a spark. Russell Wilson looking for some consistency on offense, someone he can trust. Dulcich, man, has a shot, man, to not only be the starting tight end in Denver, but a guy that Russell Wilson trusts and starts to look to in the red zone. A little bit undersized at 6'3", great route runner. Great hands. Like I said, a guy that I've had on my radar for quite a while. Boom, right out the gate, week one. Looked like the best offensive player they had. And like I said, Russell Wilson, a guy looking for someone he can trust on this offense. And certainly they've looked terrible. Better things to come for that Denver offense. I feel pretty confident in that. Dulcich, definitely a guy that you want to go pick up and stash, see what happens over the next couple weeks. Tight end points hard to come by. This guy has a shot to become a starter in Denver and a regular fantasy starter on your team as well. And the last guy I'm going to be taking a look at this week, actually popping back up on my dynasty radar, is going to be Carolina wide receiver Terrace Marshall. Obviously, a interesting weekend if you're a Carolina Panthers fan. Robbie Anderson, the little spat on the sideline, perhaps one of the quickest trades I've ever seen, is already an Arizona Cardinal, linked up with Kyler Murray after the Hollywood Brown injury. Terrace Marshall, the guy that's going to be moving up on the depth chart, still 22 years old. Obviously, the quarterback play still not too great in Carolina, so some caution there. I will say this, though, with the McCaffrey rumors swirling around that perhaps they're going to trade CMC, this offense is going to need some playmakers, some guys, to catch the ball. This is a guy I think is the next in line. Obviously, a guy drafted quite a bit last year in the second round. Just didn't pan out. A lot of guys dropped him. He's available in most leagues. Kind of popped back up last week with 4 catches, 4 targets. I was picked up in about 5% of leagues, but still available in about 95% of them. And I think one of the interesting things here, too, and this might be a long-term dynasty play, like I said, he's only 22 years old. Carolina clearly waving the white flag, thinking about tossing, if they're trading McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson's out of there, Baker Mayfield sucks, Sam Darnold sucks. I mean, PJ Walker sucks. I think just a team that's already kind of looking ahead of the draft next year, maybe, tanking for one of these top quarterbacks coming out of college this year. I mean, if that happens, man, all of a sudden Terrace Marshall, value, would be changing significantly. So for me, I think he's a guy that's already going to move up the depth chart, should start seeing some consistent targets finally in his young NFL career. And I mean, looking forward to next year if they end up with one of these young stud quarterbacks. I mean, who knows? But he's definitely a guy I want to pick up roster now, see what happens over the next couple weeks. And if Carolina continues to lose, he's a guy I'm going to sit on and see what happens the rest of the year. That's all I got. Just 3 guys I think you should definitely be taking a look at this year or this week on the Dynasty Waiver Wire. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you could, hit the like and subscribe button. Love for you to come be a part of the Masters family.